Hey guys, welcome back to mTw'DIMAGA versus mTw'DIMAGA in this best of 3 from Blizzcon 2011. If you didn't get a chance to watch Game 1, it was one of the weirdest games I've ever seen, so go back and watch that. I don't know why you'd watch Game 2 first. In the words of Plumbers Don't Wear Ties, were you raised in a barn? But yeah, this game is going to be on Xel'Naga Caverns. This is Game 2. mTw'DIMAGA is our red Zerg in the top right-hand corner, and mTw'DIMAGA is our blue Terran. And I still want to talk about that last game a little bit. Typically, if you're Terran fighting Zerg, you need to be able to check all of their units. And by that I mean the typical unit composition out of Zerg is going to be Mutalisk, Zergling, Baneling. And you need to be able to check those via Marines will deal with the Mutalisks, and something like tanks or Hellions will deal with the Zerglings and Banelings. But last game, mTw'DIMAGA went double Starport Raven with Seeker missiles, and he landed a few Seeker missiles, but it just didn't work out. So I don't know if he was thinking that the Seeker missiles were going to be his splash or what, but that's a really weird concept that I've never seen done before. So I'm actually really curious if he's going to do it again, or if there's any replays out there of him doing it at all. So I think I'm going to really be on the lookout for mTw'DIMAGA replays from now on, whether it's from the ladder or whatever. But into this game, mTw'DIMAGA is going to take his hatch on 16, as he's definitely going down there to plop this down. This is one of the maps that Zerg players kind of hate for Zerg versus Terran because of how spread out they get, and mostly because of how open this natural is. It's really hard to protect from Hellions and stuff like that. So we'll see if mTw'DIMAGA is going to open up with a Reactor Hellion, which is the most common thing to do in this matchup nowadays. He does take his gas, so he will be spending gas, unlike the first game. And mTw'DIMAGA's play throughout that first game was just so unusual, and I can't for the life of me think if this was actually on stage. I don't think that it was, but if it was, then my fault. I don't think that it was, namely because I watched almost all of this event and saw tons of Zerg versus Zergs and never saw this match. And I think if I did, I would have seen a lot of the forum chatter out there about it, because that first game was really strange. So anyway, I'll stop rambling. The spawning pool is now coming up here for mTw'DIMAGA, and a second Overlord should finish right on time so he can keep his drones coming out at the normal rate. Factory is now starting behind this for mTw'DIMAGA. He's not building it next to his wall. Okay, now he just lifts this off and puts it back. So if he's going to go Reactor Hellions, he'd probably usually build it right here and then start the reactor here, so he could get his Hellions and stuff here at the front door without, sacrificing his wall. But he will be going for a reactor. So it looks like it will be Reactor Hellions. And okay, there's a lot of drones coming out here to try and stop this one Marine, which isn't going to do anything. And this one SCV hasn't even started a bunker. So mTw'DIMAGA overreacting quite a bit to that. His hatch is finished, and all the creep is starting to spread, so there's no way a bunker's going to get up now and be able to do anything. But here's a Reactor Hellion expansion's coming down, and as soon as this reactor finishes, these will swap add-ons, and he should start Hellion production, or at least so I would assume. Yeah, it looks like that's what's going to happen. And immediately, mTw'DIMAGA throws down a Roach Warren. I don't know if he actually has any scouting information to tell him any of this, but his vision shows absolutely nothing. He did see a couple Marines, so maybe just figuring that the Reactor Hellion follow-up is coming. And here's a second factory with a second reactor. So this is going to be a pretty big Reactor Hellion play. And this is a perfect response out of mTw'DIMAGA to put up the Roach Warren, because that's just going to stop the Reactor Hellions in their tracks, at least most of the time. It depends on how many Hellions the Terran player can get out. But the idea with this double Reactor Hellion play is that you just put so many Hellions on the field that it just takes you forever to kill them all, and they waste everything. But here come the 6 Roaches out of mTw'DIMAGA, and he should be able to push these Hellions off just fine. But the weird thing about this, though, is that if he gets a bunch of Roaches out, he can't leave his base, because then the Hellions are going to roast up all of his drones. He doesn't have any spawn crawlers or any walling stuff going on here to protect these to protect his natural. I'm like stumbling over myself here. And anyway, the second reactor is now finished, and there will be a lot of Hellions out. So this is weird, because mTw'DIMAGA is going to have to play defensively with these Roaches because there's so many Hellions on the field, unless he just gets map control here, which it looks like he's going to actually force mTw'DIMAGA back, unless he just runs right around him. So mTw'DIMAGA is going to go straight for mTw'DIMAGA's base, and mTw'DIMAGA looks like he just wants to go right past him, or at least like sandwich him and get good hits off with his Hellions, but we may be into a weird trade situation here as there's not enough stuff to stop these roaches at all. And bratOK knows it, so he's just going to go for the base trade. The Hellions are going to go right up the ramp as there's no queen blocking, and these Hellions are going to waste a lot of drones, or at least so I would figure. They're wasting their fire on queens right now. The drones do come in here for a surround. There's lots of drones falling right now to these Hellions. Almost this entire mineral line is cleaned out as bratOK's Hellion count is now cut in half. In the meantime, the roaches do break down the front door over here at bratOK's base, but bratOK is actually doing a really good job of clearing these out. So the roaches aren't going to do really any damage. I mean, they killed a few workers, they killed a couple of Marines and some Hellions, but bratOK really coming out ahead here, still frying up some drones. A lot of queens and roaches are chasing these around. And these Hellions could get a really nice shot as they do roast up about 3 or 4 drones right there. A couple more drones do go down to these Hellion shots, and man, there's been a lot of workers killed so far. So we take a look at the tab for that. 18 workers down for mTw'DIMAGA and only 5 lost for bratOK. And yes, I hit the spacebar to go to mTw'DIMAGA's base. Here comes the follow-up out of bratOK. Going to remain very aggressive after this as he knows that any spending of larvae on drones right now is just going to kill mTw'DIMAGA. So mTw'DIMAGA just has to continue to put out roaches, and roach speed is not going to finish anywhere even close. This might actually just kill mTw'DIMAGA because this is a lot of Hellions and some Marines backing it up. The Hellions do come in here to get a few more drone kills, and it would almost be smart of mTw'DIMAGA to just park a queen on the ramp right now so those Hellions can't escape. But they are just going to go ahead and escape and leave the rest of mTw'DIMAGA's stuff back in his base. And the Hellions are coming over here to try and kill a whole bunch more drones here at the natural. And Marines do press up here, but they're going to die pointlessly to roaches. So mTw'DIMAGA is doing okay in this situation. I mean, this is a pretty bad situation to be in. But he's stuck in a spot where he can't afford to make too many drones because Hellions, again, they're just going to keep flooding in here. And mTw'DIMAGA is just going to be scrambling around his base. Look at bratOK split these up. And he does get a bunch more drone kills here at the natural. Tons of drones are going down. Basically, that whole round of drones he just put out was already killed by these Hellions. Tons more Hellions in the main wrecking stuff up. They will finally be cleared out, but mTw'DIMAGA has to have lost like almost 30 workers by now. 29 workers. So yeah, that's a lot of losses this early in the game. bratOK hasn't even landed his expansion yet. He's just producing mules and SCVs off of both of these. And the 2 factories lift off. He's probably just going to drop barracks right here, at least so I would think. And yes, they are ghosting right now. And up in the meantime, bratOK is trying to prevent mTw'DIMAGA's creep spreading the best he can. So the Hellions are running around here. I was thinking they might go in this back hallway, and mTw'DIMAGA kind of thought the same thing, but no, the Hellions just come right back up front. I don't think bratOK has a scan to kill any of these creep tumors, but the Hellions just walk right into the roaches' faces, and they are going to kill a fair number of drones here. As you can see, 1 drone does go down. There's another couple of drones, and man, the pressure here is just endless out of bratOK. mTw'DIMAGA now holds a fair supply lead, but bratOK transitioning into Marauders, and it looks like Stim is on the way as well. A starport, 2 more barracks, and I don't know how much longer bratOK is going to be able to stay on one base, as his supply is already falling quite a bit to mTw'DIMAGA, down by 23 supply this early in the game. It's kind of unusual to see, but mTw'DIMAGA still has his queens intent on spreading creep, which is really smart. He's not spreading it as wide as he did last game. He's more so just trying to spread a line straight to the Terran base. But yeah, Infestation Pit is now coming down and starting right here at the natural. So really fast infestors out of mTw'DIMAGA. 2 base infestor play. Usually going to follow up with a lot of Zerglings, and I don't know what mTw'DIMAGA actually knows in terms of what bratOK is producing right now. I don't think he really knows anything. But the expansion lands, bratOK turns around all of his SCVs to go back and rally them to the closer command center. So it looks like the game is going to slow down just a little bit for now. Pathogen Glands is on the way for those infestors so that when they actually spawn, they will be at higher energy than normally. So you want to time this out so that when this is about halfway done, you start your infestors and get it so that the infestors finish just a nick of time after the Pathogen Glands finishes. So it's a little bit of a delicate timing, but if you're used to playing Zerg and you're used to getting infestors, you can make that work. This creep tumor is really hurt from, I think, some Hellions harassment coming up here. But these roaches are also fairly hurt. Looks like there's going to be a Marauder drop moving out here. 1 roach comes in here and kills 1 SCV and just says, haha, and runs away through the back alley. And the Marines cannot chase him down because this roach has speed. But this Marauder drop could do quite a bit of damage if mTw'DIMAGA is not able to recover very well. And look at this little spot that bratOK can sit himself in to protect against a lot of Zergling attacks. This one Roach actually did scout this dropship, so imba'BratOK knows all about it. He's got a bunch of Zerglings sitting here waiting for those to be dropped off, and Marauders really don't do well against Zerglings at all. Here's these 3 Infestors coming out right now, and the second half of this is being pushed up through the middle just to clear creep. So imba'BratOK really smart here. That drop could have easily just been a diversion so that he could get a couple of creep tumors cleared out. And this is what you want to do. I mean, if you can keep your units active and stay on top of your macro, then that's exactly the way to play StarCraft 2. Look at imba'BratOK over-muling at a couple of patches here in his main, so that he's only on, what's that, 6 mineral patches. Excuse me, no, that's 7, so only one of them is depleted. But still, that's a pretty big deal to over-mule on one patch and clear it out before it should be cleared out. What happened to this drop? I don't think... Okay, it's still right here. It actually hasn't really done anything. The Marauders have taken just a tiny bit of damage, but I'm pretty sure he just got dropped off and then put right back in. It looks like imba'BratOK has learned his lesson. He's going to go ahead and start grabbing tanks behind all this while imba'BratOK clears down his rocks to take his 3rd. Excuse me, his 4th, because his 3rd is going to be here at the gold. These Marauders could get a cancel on that, but it looks like the Zerglings are going to be out in too high of numbers too quickly, and he just he fungals the mTw'DIMAGA though. So this mTw'DIMAGA is doomed unless he can't land another fungal. He actually gets the Marauders out of there, so that's going to help make this mTw'DIMAGA survive a little longer. So, oh! It looks like the Infested Terrans actually got that mTw'DIMAGA anyway, so a whole bunch of Marauders go down for free, and that kind of sucks if you're imba'BratOK, but not too huge of a deal. He will have siege tanks coming out here. It's going to be 2 factory siege tanks off of 2 bases, which is very fine. You also can spare the gas to get upgrades, so he is dropping an armory, still getting mTw'DIMAGs and stuff like that too, so that he can heal his Marines. So this is going to transform into a very standard Marine tank composition from here. After another fairly weird opener with that double reactor Hellion play that didn't really, I mean, it killed a ton of workers, but it didn't put him too far ahead because he'd never landed his expansion due to the Roach counter possibility. But imba'BratOK is going to be a little bit aggressive with this Infestor Zergling play. His Infestors just don't have a lot of energy though, so I'm a little bit concerned about that. He can't afford to lose these for sure. And there are tanks out, so if he runs into this could be really bad. One tank does siege well in range of all these Infestors, and you can see him targeting the Infestors down. A lot of Zerglings do come in here as well. Nice fungal growth coming down, and it looks like imba'BratOK may... No, he's not going to have enough here to break him. There's just too many Marines and tanks still on the field. So imba'BratOK loses all of his Infestors, all of his Zerglings, and there's still a few Roaches that are running around here, but he's going to lose everything, and imba'BratOK actually lost a ton of SCVs there as well. So looking at the Workers Lost tab, it's actually almost evened out. It is still in favor of imba'BratOK by 7, but yeah, a fairly successful attack. It did a little better than I thought. But here comes a small push out of Marines, and 3 siege tanks is the important number to pay attention to here. Those 3 siege tanks are kind of the magic number to splash on whatever important targets you need, like Banelings or Infestors. The tanks aren't quite siege though. Huge fungal coming down here, and the tanks are just ripping the Marines apart. So there's basically no Marine support here, but also no Spire, so the lack of Marines actually doesn't mean all that much against imba'BratOK's unit composition. imba'BratOK is in danger of losing this hatch right now. He is starting a queen out of it though, but I don't think he's going to have enough to get that queen out and save that as well. Here's an Ultralisk Cavern on the way out of imba'BratOK. Another quite strange unit composition coming down as we see a no muta ZVT going on right now. There's another hatchery going down here at the 3rd, so I think imba'BratOK can afford to lose this per se. I mean, you never want to lose a hatchery, but he won't be in bad shape. He does just go ahead and throw down a whole bunch of Infested Terrans and Zerglings, and it looks like that Roach actually came out of the egg, but it didn't. Another big fungal growth coming down here, and imba'BratOK just working hard to save this hatch the best he can. And of course you want to save whatever you have up, so the queen actually does make it out and does get a nice vomit on that hatchery. Here's imba'BratOK behind this taking an expansion on the left side, so he's going to be on 3 bases. He can't take his gold because the creep is now blocking it, and this is weird of imba'BratOK to be taking that left expansion instead of the one closer to his 2nd base. But there's now 1 Ultralisk on the way. That's right, 1 Ultralisk is going to do all the work. And here's Adrenal Glands coming down. So this could be a really heavy upgraded... He's going to be on 2-2 Adrenal Gland Zerglings here pretty quick, and that's really fearsome. If Zerg ever gets to that point and just is able to flood wave after wave of Zerglings at you and you're on Marine tank, they'll just chew right through you. So that's pretty scary stuff. These Marines are scouting out here trying to figure out if there's an expansion over here, but there's obviously not. There's a bunch of Zerglings and Infestors and one Ultralisk stomping through the middle of the map, and bratOK has to just go ahead and retreat. A couple Marines do get pushed up here to see what's going on, and this is a terrible job. They just die for no reason. They did try to focus their fire to kill one Zergling, but it didn't quite go down. And imba'BratOK has to be really suspicious of what's happening right now, because he sees no third here, and he sees no third at the gold. So he may just actually find this out a lot quicker than he normally should have, and this is not a planetary, so the fact that it's just an orbital will make a really big difference here. One thing I also wanted to point out is really creative is bratOK dropping a couple of tanks right here, knowing that imba'BratOK is not on any Spire tech, so he won't even be able to see up there unless he holds the watchtower and then drops infested Terrans around here or something. He has basically no ranged units outside of the Infestor, which doesn't deal direct damage. Overlord speed is on the way. That may actually be for spotting more than anything. But here's a small Marine drop here out of bratOK. Look how low the supplies are for this stage of the game. bratOK just sitting here with his drop, not really doing anything. The Zerglings and Ultralisk see it. So this drop shouldn't do anything. Look at this flank out of imba'BratOK with an Ultralisk as well. And all of his Infestors are coming up to the high side. So I think this drop is actually doomed because imba'BratOK is just too smart. And he does get the fungal off, and he should be able to drop a couple of infested Terrans underneath that. In addition to not doing anything else. Just letting it sit there, so we're having a impasse. There are a few Zerglings over here that will get cleaned up by these Marines, but this drop now starts unloading Marines, and look how low that medevac is. One hit from the Queen actually kills it. Look how close in proximity this base is to where one of imba'BratOK's units, and I don't think imba'BratOK even knows, because if he did, there's no doubt he would be in there screwing it up the best he could. +3 attacks is now on the way, and 3 more Ultras. So this is going to be a lot of Ultralisks, and in response, bratOK is going to start going Marauders. So this is a nice follow-up. There's one Zergling over here just hiding behind the mineral patches the best he can. You could actually see imba'BratOK select it for a second there. And this will be a planetary, so bratOK just getting a little more forceful in his advancements, and yes, that Overlord definitely was for spotting, and here go the infested Terrans. He looks like he lost a couple of Infestors there to these tanks, and that sucks. So a pretty good trade nevertheless out of bratOK to get 2 Infestors for 2 tanks. I think anybody would really take that trade because full energy Infestors can do a lot of damage. There's still Ultralisks coming out here, and the number of Ultralisks is really swelling. Taking a look at the unit count, he'll be on 9 Ultras here in a second once these 2 more pop. And 9 Ultras, if you don't have a ton of Marauders, which he now does have a decent force, will just rip through everything. Does he actually? No, he does not have chitinous plating, which is really surprising. He has tons of gas for it, so that's got to be a mistake to not grab chitinous plating on your Ultralisk, which gives it +2 armor. And that really helps out against stuff like Marines. It looks like this expansion got found, and imba'BratOK definitely pushed him off of there, but he's now supply blocked. Ultralisk, one Ultralisk anyway, is going to die and only deal half damage to a tank, so that sucks to lose that. The hatchery eventually did go down. It looked like it was just due to some Marauder stuff, and there's so much action here on the map. So we can now see the planetary at the gold is dying really fast. A lot of SCVs are going down to fungal growth. Another fungal on these Marines, and the Ultras start pressing up here into Marauders, and that's just a losing battle for these Ultralisks. But they're doing actually a fairly good job of chewing through these low number of Marauders now. There's a lot of really hurt Marauders in addition to that, but they can kite these Ultras for quite a while. The infested Terrans are trying their best to chase down a couple of medevacs, but they don't get anything done. This Overlord is pooping creep in the middle of bratOK's base. This is a weirdly paced game, just like I said about the last one, but yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on all the time. Players losing bases constantly. This Ultra really needs to be healed. He's only at 8 health. This is where you need to pull a Queen that is on a lot of energy like this one and transfuse it. And it looks like he's just moving around to protect his bases. Come on, imba'BratOK, don't let me down. I want to see that Ultras get transfused. There we go. Now he's dropping a bunch of transfuses on there, and he should have enough for one more. You can see it looks like that's exactly what he wants to do. It's so smart to keep your units healed like that if you have that ability. A lot of Marauders coming in here. Zerglings do get the full surround, and Ultralisks are coming up behind them. Big fungals all over everything. The medevac's kind of getting in the way of this battle here, but the medevacs are going to get fungaled as well. You can see the Queens are being assigned to take these out one at a time, so bratOK is really getting crushed here. 60 supply to 111 of imba'BratOK, but the problem here is that imba'BratOK lost that hatch. So bratOK's getting reestablished here at the gold. He's going to be on 3 orbitals, all dropping mules at the gold. These 2 tanks very creatively being put up here once again to try and get some free damage off. There's Marauders trying to kill these infested Terrans the best they can to protect this tank. and he's losing infestors once again. But here comes the Ultralisk into the gold, taking out a whole bunch of SCVs there, and the gold has to lift off. So again, imba'BratOK up by a fair number of supply, 40 supply, which is pretty big. That's almost, actually that's more than 50% of imba'BratOK supply that he is behind by. Another small Marauder drop over here, trying to pick off infestors and queens and Ultralisks and whatever else they can find. One Ultralisk just standing here where the hatch used to be, being like, hey, where'd it go? But the drop did get taken out, and this is so weird. This is like small squad battles. It's like the single player missions where you only have like 10 units, and you have to go fight another band of 10 units. And that's like all they can macro out here. But imba'BratOK has a lot of Ultras, but the problem is that there's a lot of Marauders out as well. With at least one medevac support, if there's more medevacs on the field, he'll have a really hard time breaking that. But imba'BratOK is starting to catch up in supply because imba'BratOK's mining is just terrible right now. He's having to distance mine the gold and his third because he's mined out at his natural and his main. Whereas imba'BratOK still has a little bit of mining at his natural. His main is obviously mined out. It's now 30 minutes into the game. And here comes the attack of Ultras once again. And the Ultralisks are not getting very much damage off on this bio. As they do move back up here, he's going to cancel all these bunkers that imba'BratOK attempted to place, knowing that this is his last chance of winning this game. But the Ultralisks have to run, and imba'BratOK's income is just so bad right now that I don't know that he's going to be able to recover unless he gets a hatch down. But he can't afford to if he's losing a lot of drones. Ultralisks come over here to try to clean this up, and the drop just moves down to the third, or at least where it should be, and can continue to poke at this and keep imba'BratOK's army back in his base. You can see imba'BratOK has now leapfrogged imba'BratOK in supply by 11. This one queen is going to go down, so at least that drop can retreat. This is, again, a really strange game. Only 2 units doing a lot of work here for imba'BratOK, killing a bunch of drones and some queens. Ultralisks come down here, and he can just pick up into this medevac whenever he wants to, but no, he's just going to send those to its death. It's because he's a little more worried about establishing himself here in the middle of the map. One Marine kills this Overlord as well. This Overlord is still in the base, pooping out creep. So he knows everything that's coming out of those buildings, at least if he's been paying attention to it. There's a lot of infestors that are building up energy now, and this may be the ticket for imba'BratOK to regain some momentum in this fight, is if you have high energy infestors, you can deal with this number of units because you can just fungal them over and over until they're dead. But we'll see if he's able to do that. Again, these tanks get dropped off here on the high ground. I really like that tactic out of imba'BratOK. And here comes the press up here out of imba'BratOK, and I don't think he's going to be able to win this. Look at these Marauders almost one-shotting these Ultralisks. A lot of infested Terrans are dropped around these tanks. And imba'BratOK is continuing to lose these infestors. He does get a couple of nice fungals off, but it looks like there's just too much damage output for imba'BratOK right now. And again, imba'BratOK's income is awful because he has no expansion there, and he just quits out of the game. So yeah, you can see how valuable sniping hatcheries and stuff like that is in the late game, as imba'BratOK went from being down by about 40 supply to being up only because he had a mining base. And imba'BratOK just wasn't getting efficient trades whatsoever. This tactic of the 2 tanks on the high ground here is something I really like, and I basically never see. It's really easy to control those points if the other player is not running mutas. If they are running mutas, it's a little hard, but at least you can separate your tanks from being killed by a lot of Zerglings or something, which I know it's okay if Zerglings and stuff are targeting your tanks rather than your Marines because it's their job to remove the Zerglings, but still, I think that's a really creative idea. Nevertheless, this is going to 3 games, so the series is now tied 1-1, and the 3rd game will be taking place just right after this, and we'll just jump straight into that. So go ahead and find that game, which should be too tough, and join me there.